Yeah, so I've been a financial advisor for about 8 years now. Started as an intern here at the firm and kind of worked my way up. And now I really just primarily work with LGBTQ individuals and women and really kind of focus my practice on really just helping those types of individuals that really just need some additional thought and clarity around their financial picture. I really love just working with individuals and making a big impact in their life and really helping somebody with their financial situation and kind of being there for life's ups and downs and kind of just providing that clarity, that assistance when they need help is just a really great feeling to again to be able to be there for somebody and be a resource for them. Yeah, the first thing that caught my attention was really how simple and streamlined the platform was. Just everything kind of in an easy one, viewership initial login screen that showed you everything from the individual client accounts you have to the total assets invested. You can see the different registrations, kind of all in one dashboard screen. Then from there, kind of drill down. But really, the simplicity and the streamlined approach that the platform offers was really the biggest thing that caught my eye. So right now we kind of have kind of our trading platform with the larger custodians, kind of our main United Capital investment platform, and then we have kind of the Zoe, which is kind of an all-in-one. From the login that the client sees, so then being able to utilize the trading capabilities and account building capabilities there. And so really that's just an internal piece. So I would say, it adds another kind of tech layer onto kind of the offering that we have internally. But from kind of a streamlined perspective, in my mind, it kind of takes away an actual kind of technology entity as well, because we're able to kind of do the onboarding, the trading, the account statements, everything all in one inside the Zoe platform. Whereas with our main piece, we have three different kind of softwares associated with that. So prior to Zoe, we had our own internal technology stack that we had kind of built out ourselves at United Capital. And then from a custodian side, we utilized kind of the larger custodian and, really just they weren't kind of hitting the mark, I think, so to speak. And Zoe really kind of filled that niche of being a really tech forward, easy to utilize resource for myself as an advisor and our clients as well. The setup process, I would say, is probably the easiest out of other custodians. I would say that's probably the biggest claim to fame, I would say, with Zoe is really how easy it is to open an account and have it kind of ready to go without jumping through a lot of hoops and different steps that's required. So from kind of the day to day is working with the Zoe team on, meeting with introductory, prospects, kind of starting that initial conversation with them. What are you looking for? What prompts you to reach out for an advisor? And then during that intro call, I'm really kind of understanding what the prospect is looking for. Why do they reach out to the advisor? What are their biggest pain points? And then kind of going back to to the platform and saying, okay, working with the team, hey, here's where their pain points are, here's how we can help them. And then assuming they move forward, we're really kind of working together to open the account, get it funded, and kind of start the planning right away. I would say probably a good hour or so at least on a per day basis. Truthfully, the amount of time that I spent on the administrator side, especially before coming a full fledged advisor, was a lot. It really the administrative process and going with the steps that the large custodians outlined, it took up a really good portion of my time. So again, being able to kind of sweep that to the side, focus on the more streamlined approach, definitely saves up and frees up a lot of time. I would say that one of the biggest concerns that I have is if there is a a glitch or something isn't operating as smoothly, who do you go to, right? This is something that's not our technology. We're kind of entrusting the Zoe team around that. But from very early on, it was evident to me that, if there was an issue, the Zoe team was always there to lend a helping hand and, provide whether it was, resources to me or directly to the client and communicate with them to resolve any issues that I know kind of the Zoe team always had my back around any sorts of glitches or problems to get it resolved as soon as possible. Really easy, actually. As a millennial, I am really not as tech forward as you would think, but it was really easy to kind of just get a handle on how the platform works, what's the most streamlined way to accomplish a certain task in the platform, and I was really able to kind of grasp onto it quickly. And so I have my clients as well. They've repeatedly told me how simple and streamlined it is for them to log in, view their accounts throughout the day, see how the market's moving, and helps them feel comfortable and confident. I would say really the technology side of it. I don't think the larger custodians have been able to kind of adapt and come out with um, new innovative ideas and kind of building the platform around really kind of the advisor and the client that I think Zoe has. I would say the large custodians are kind of very set in their ways, and this is how we do it, and we as the advisor have to conform to it, and by virtue of that, so does the client. Whereas kind of the partnership with Zoe feels a lot more truly like a partnership versus kind of an authoritarian. We're going to do it this way, and you have to adjust. I would say probably two things. The first one for me is just knowing that I have somebody in my corner to kind of help out. If the client, came to me with a question, am I doing this right? Do I need to fill this out? Whatever it is on the link, I could then kind of go behind the scenes and talk to the Zoe team to be like, hey, I just want to double check this so I can come back to the client with a definitive answer. And then I would say the second piece would be kind of the transfer piece. Once the account opening is always straightforward. However, the transferring of assets can be a little bit tricky depending on where they're custodied, what's the account registration. Having a dedicated person at Zoe to really assist start to finish with the transfer. Here's the contra firm. They're gonna, send the money ACAT over. That really makes a big difference in kind of saving time for the client and also, having the expertise so that way we don't need to redo transfers, 2 or 3 times in order to get it right. Yeah, so really open to kind of working with anybody with a kind of a special focus again on LGBTQ and women individuals, and really individuals that have probably previously felt excluded from kind of the financial services industry and didn't feel like they could really find a home there and find an advisor that they truly trusted. Yeah, so there's always that initial kind of fear of, implementing something new with your clients and, the worry that what if it doesn't work out? That's kind of a reflection on myself as an advisor. But I think really kind of meeting behind the scenes with the Zoe team, getting a kind of rundown of what the platform looks like, how it really operates, gave me a lot of confidence to then know, okay, I feel comfortable to kind of roll this out to my clients. I already kind of know how it works. I've utilized it, kind of again behind the scenes. And that way, so when it was finally ready for the clients, I was able to kind of answer their questions and be there to like handhold them throughout the onboarding process. I would say it really makes it a lot easier to interact with prospective clients. I think it kind of breaks down a lot of barriers that a lot of advisors may have of, how do I even get in front of a prospect? How do I even get the conversation going? So, interacting with the Zoe team, you get a, kind of a brief introduction, hey, here's, about how old the client is. Here's, some of the, introduction information that they provided to us. Here's about where they live. And so you really already kind of have a little bit of background that you can lean on when you're having that first introductory call. So it again, kind of, I think, breaks down those barriers to really kind of set up to have that introductory meeting because it's also already booked on your calendar. The time is set aside. What I found too is the prospect is really already kind of expecting that call. And so I found there's very few kind of missed meetings or things like that are occurring. Yeah, so from particularly an administrative perspective, again, it's kind of a very paperwork, administrative heavy type of industry with all the compliance rules. And so, if I added up kind of the length of time that I was spending between, correcting wrong paperwork, going back to the larger custodians, waiting for them to give me a response, and then relay it back to a client, that ended up with kind of a lot of wasted time that I could have spent talking to kind of my clients and helping them with their actual genuine concerns versus paperwork concerns. So being able to kind of push all of that to the side and just focus on, helping my clients has again freed up kind of that time to expand my book of business for not only the smaller clients, but then also kind of the ultra high net worth clients as well. Yeah, I would say the biggest benefit is probably just the ability to say yes to more clients. Obviously there's kind of the benefit of, the streamlined approach and things like that we've talked about, but I now have a lot more confidence to, take on potentially some of those smaller emerging wealth clients that maybe I wouldn't have felt as confident kind of putting on the larger, platform, going through that paperwork. But now, kind of having that quick easy access to, onboard in, a matter of, a day. I think that's really kind of giving me the confidence to expand my book of business and, kind of reach out and talk to a lot more potential clients. Yes, I would say one of the biggest features is kind of the all-in-one dashboard that the clients can see. And then also for me as well on my dashboard, as soon as I log in, I can see kind of where all of my clients sit, what cash is in the accounts, how's the accounts doing, and really just kind of a one-stop shop to see everything. And if there's something out of place, I'm able to quickly make an adjustment for my clients. And then for my clients as well, once they log in, they're able to see kind of again in that one-shot view, how's my account doing today? The accounts update every 15 minutes. They're able to see pretty real time how their portfolio is doing, especially in market volatility, see what their holdings look like, go into their transactions, all from kind of that main dashboard screen. And I think that's really helpful, especially as we all live busy lives. We kind of want to see, quick, how am I doing? Okay, great. If there's a bigger concern, I'll address it later, but at least kind of give you that quick snapshot. So prior to utilizing Zoe, we were doing everything kind of the old school way with PDF forms. And so it was just very clunky. It took a lot more time and effort, both from our side on the advisory practice, but also from the client side as well. I would say the onboarding process is really streamlined compared to kind of what I've been used to with some of the other platforms. Really from the all digital onboarding process from kind of the start, sending out the client paperwork, getting the account opened on the platform, and then also even kind of transferring existing assets that the client has. I would say, kind of start to finish, we're looking at probably a couple days between, again, like account opening to assets actually being on the platform and be able to, kind of invest them for the client. So very streamlined and pretty straightforward. And if there is any issues, the Zoe team is always great to, kind of lend a hand and help out. I would say usually it took about 2 weeks from kind of the start, the relationship when the client was ready to move forward, to sending all of the paperwork, to receiving it back, to then giving enough lead time for them to be able to process it and open the account. Yeah, I would say just from kind of the client data information, we compile a lot of information just on the United Capital side. But in order to kind of open an account, I would say it's noticeably personal information on our clients, less information in a good way. It seems a lot less invasive and intrusive for the client, especially when they're just kind of getting to know you as the advisor. Sometimes they, don't want to disclose every little detail about themselves. And with the other custodians, that's kind of needed, truthfully, and there's a lot more blanks to fill out on the forms. But having kind of a little less intrusive questions, quicker process to enter that personal information, I think is a really big asset for both the advisor and the client. They've been really positive from an onboarding side. I onboarded a client and then kind of found out that it was not going to be the best platform for her. And I decided that, hey, would you be okay if we pivoted and actually just kind of closed the accounts and we opened something on the Zoe platform? And she, was a little bit concerned about doing that. She's like, well, we just opened, kind of the previous account, but through kind of the onboarding process, we were literally able to have the new accounts open on Zoe by the end of the day. We started kind of in the afternoon after lunch, after our meeting. And so she was really appreciative of like how quickly we could kind of like turn it around after, she had to do all kind of the old school paperwork. I think she had that idea that we would have to go through the same thing moving to Zoe. And when that didn't happen, she was really thankful for that. Yes, I would say from the last couple of months, I've definitely seen kind of an uptick in not only the prospective clients kind of put on my calendar, but also I would say like the quality of prospects. They're kind of looking to move forward a little bit quicker. They are, pretty decisive in, hey, I reached out, I want to hire an advisor, and so I would say from that perspective, definitely kind of an uptick from introductory call to actually fully becoming onboarded onto the platform. I would say the biggest bottleneck was the amount of people that were involved to really get the account opened and funded. Between, myself kind of doing the introductory meeting with the prospect to then, passing that on to my service team to have them pre-fill the paperwork, the client sign it, then it goes to the brokerage team to really kind of open the account, and they come back to us and let us know that it's open. So there's really just a lot of hands in the pot there trying to make it happen when there's definitely an easier, more streamlined way. Really, it's so myself and then our service team. So pretty much at a minimum, you're kind of looking at about 3 to 4 individuals on the back end to really go from start to finish to get an account open and funded. Yeah, I would say anytime that we are, focusing time and energy on kind of opening an account and, doing the onboarding, the administrative pieces behind the scenes, that's time away from really working with the client and helping them with their main financial concerns, and putting them on the path to living a more, successful financial life. So the first account from kind of initial introduction was, probably, I would say about a week for them to sign on. Once we got the go ahead, I would say probably another week in total from kind of having the United Capital agreement signed, the account opened on the Zoe platform, and then, kind of having it fully funded and ready to invest. So I would say probably about 2 weeks from very beginning start of the relationship, having that first call to then kind of being completely onboarded and invested with the client. From kind of the client agreement, probably, looking at a couple days to, just taking into account, clients are very busy. So on average, I would say a couple days for them to kind of get the account opened. They sign the United Capital agreement. We do what we need to do on our side. And then really we can kind of start the transfer process right away. Kind of my go-to practice has been Once the client agrees that they want to move forward and become a full-on client, having them also send me a statement for the accounts that they're looking to move over. So I can just go ahead and, we already know where it's coming from, who the custodian is. We can start right away kind of in that onboarding process to open the account. We've already kind of started the transfer in motion as well to even kind of shorten down the length of time that we're seeing. Yeah, I would say from particularly a small account perspective, we have a lot of our portfolios have at least $10,000 minimums and really don't have the capabilities to do fractional shares. And so even when you're just setting up a Roth IRA to start, right? Even if the client can do the maximum contribution, they can do $7,000. That still falls below the $10,000 minimum portfolio. So we weren't actually kind of able to open a Roth IRA just to start, which was kind of a little bit of a pain point, I think, for a lot of clients that might have had a larger rollover. We wanted to establish this and we couldn't hold it on our platform. So now being able to open, to start a Roth IRA, start a traditional IRA, whatever it is, or even somebody just might have, $5,000 or $6,000 of extra cash that they want to get invested in a diversified fund. Having the ability to use those fractional shares and expand upon that really makes a difference. I would say really the transfer request, really just the ease to kind of combine both the onboarding and the transfer request. That's kind of the transfer is something that I think a lot of clients get nervous about, right? They're used to having their money managed, in an existing custodian for, a number of years. And now all of a sudden, not only are they kind of building a new relationship with you as the advisor, they're also going to be getting statements from a new location. They're going to have a new login for their investment accounts. So anything we can do to make that as streamlined as possible, I think is a really big win. And so the larger custodian, they require separate paperwork, not only just to open the account, but then also to transfer the account. The PDFs that we were printing out and getting kind of wet signature made that stack even bigger. And so kind of to be able to do it on one, just onboarding piece all digitally, I think takes away a lot of that anxiety that clients feel. And anytime I can take away that anxiety for clients, that makes me feel good as an advisor. Kind of getting a whole new team to work with and partner with. So really kind of, I think that partnership between us at United Capital to then the partnership at Zoe and really kind of creating this seamless entity, I think has been really a big benefit. Let's say innovative, honestly. And especially as a young advisor, kind of in the business trying to make a name for myself. I think, from my perspective, the biggest asset being young is to be innovative and to, be flexible with whatever the prospective clients out there need. And Zoe, I think, has those capabilities to kind of match me with that. Keep an open mind and, kind of roll with it, I would say, is, develop the relationships and really jump into it. I think that's been my biggest success, I think, is really just if we're going to go through and kind of partner with Zoe, let's really go through and partner with Zoe kind of with everything we have and really try and make the most of the partnership together. Yeah, I would say, kind of review your book of business, see if it makes sense, see if there's, different synergies that you think would, you would identify with the Zoe platform. Again, kind of the biggest problem pain points I would say is if, you're experiencing kind of struggling meeting prospective new clients, you're having trouble from the back end administrative side, kind of onboarding them, doing the account maintenance, then it sounds like, Zoe could be a great resource for you to kind of cover up those pain points. And, if you have a smoother practice, then, your clients are going to realize that and, hopefully lead to, better referrals and kind of just a better experience for everybody. I would say I'm really interested in exploring just the kind of all-in-one account servicing piece. I think, the assistance to onboard clients is great, but to really create kind of a hub that advisors can naturally go to and, the clients can naturally go to really collaborate on their investments, collaborate on their financial goals. Truthfully, I think the sky is the limit around that. And I'm really looking forward to kind of partnering with Zoe and seeing where that goes.